I was just bragging that I go live. Let me tell Roy. Roy, you're in the green room. I see you. I'll bring you on in a minute. Y'all, tonight is a different kind of night. We're not going to have any singing, so if you come for the singing, I'm sorry, but I think you're going to love this conversation we're about to have. I'm about to introduce you to Roy Morgan. For those of you who do not know who he is, he owns Premier, or he did own till he sold it, Premier Productions. But we're going to go way back to 19, I think it may have been 81 or even earlier, where Roy is the guy who called me. He was a student at Liberty. He called me and said, I want to book you. And I said, great, I ain't got no bookings. Come to find out he could book a pork chop into a synagogue. He took the Baptist Bible Fellowship directory, started calling churches. He booked me in 43 concerts in 41 days, right out of college when no one knew me from Adam's house cat. That's right. And so I'm excited while the room is filling up. We got 921 of you watching on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and marklowry.com. So come on in, everybody. It's going to be a great conversation. I want to get your comments up because you might have some questions as we proceed. And Roy and I were just talking before we went live about the beginning, and he was telling some great stories, so I couldn't wait for 7 o'clock to get here so we could start this. So would you welcome my dear friend of over who knows how many years, Roy Morgan. Hey, Roy, how are you?
Good, Mark. How are you, bud?
I'm good. Now, you are in High Point, North Carolina?
Uh, well, Kathy and I live in a little town called Lexington, North Carolina.
Okay.
It's about 25 miles from High Point, and it's known for its barbecue.
Oh,
Lexington
okay.
barbecue. Yeah,
And
we love it here. Great town.
you and Kathy have been married for how many years?
This August will be 42 years we've
Yeah,
been
and you
married.
and you
Yeah.
met when we were all at Liberty.
Well, now I met her in High Point before I ever went to Liberty.
Oh, you
We were
did?
dating. We were dating before we went to Liberty,
Oh,
and
I
then
didn't know
couldn't
that.
date. Remember that?
Oh,
Those
yeah.
days?
Yeah, because of the Liberty Way.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
There's a
With
few
all.
times we snuck across the railroad tracks down there
Did
on
you?
Highway 29. Oh, just a few. Just a
Now, do
few.
your kids know that?
Well, our oldest son, Justin, is an English professor there. So he doesn't know that, and I probably hope he's not watching tonight because I don't want him going and telling the president.
Right, right. Well, Roy, take us back to what was it, 1981? Was it that far back or further?
No, it was in December of 1981, and Kathy and I had been married. We got married in August of 1980. I still had about a year and a half of college left. I think you had already graduated
I
or
did. I
was getting ready to.
graduated in 1980.
Yeah, and so I'm still going to school full time, and after classes were over every day, I'd go to the dormitories up on Liberty Mountain, and I would mop floors and buff dormitory floors, and that's how we created some revenue to get me through college. And Kathy and I lived in a little 10 by 40 trailer back then for 2.5 years, and she worked at the community college, and I knew God was leading me into the business side of music, and I had promoted a few concerts, in 1980, Truth and the Regeneration and the Florida Boys and Tim Shepard and all those good
And I
old
came to all
artists
those
from then.
concerts.
Yeah, yeah. But I was in a mop closet one day in December of 1981, getting my mop buckets ready and my buffer, and you were on the radio, the campus radio station with Phil Pantana. Do you remember that?
I do remember it.
WRVL. And you
Yeah.
were, I don't know if you were co-hosting or,
Yeah.
but both of you were on the air, and I knew God was was calling me into being either a booking agent, a concert promoter, an artist manager, that type of thing. I loved the live event, and I thought I'm going to call Mark because I saw you in concert at Thomas Road Baptist Church a few times, and I saw you do your music. I saw you do your storytelling, and I'd already booked a few of those Jesus First Crusade teams, that went out on weekends at Liberty. And I thought, I can't get a job in Nashville. I'm just going to see if I start my own company.
Right.
And there in the mop closet, you and Phil played a song. And when you played the song, I thought, well, maybe he's got a minute to talk. And there was a payphone in the mop closet. And I called the radio station and said, "Can I speak to Mark Lowry?" And you got on the phone, and we had a conversation. And a couple of weeks later, we started getting at it.
Well, I remember
Booking, and
the way I remember you called, and I don't know if I actually knew you at the time.
I think we
don't
knew who each
remember.
other were, but
Yeah.
we weren't
You
friends.
said I just remember you said, "I want to book you." I said, "Great, I ain't got no bookings." And then I say that line I've said for years now, this guy could book a pork chop into a synagogue. You booked me in 43 concerts in 41 days. Do you remember that?
Well, here's what I remember, Mark. I remember you saying, "Book me, book me, book me, book me." I don't have any bookings.
Right.
And I would book you solid for like 2 or 3 weeks every night.
Yeah, yeah.
And by the end of the third week, you're saying, "Stop it, stop it. Let me, we need to give me a break."
I'm still
then,
like that today.
And then we'd go 2 weeks with no dates, and you call me up and say, "Book me, book me, book me." I mean,
Yeah.
just
Wow.
back and forth. And but
You
we
didn't know-
found the balance. We finally found the
yeah.
balance. I was. You got to have some time off, and
Yeah, yes.
you
And
can't go
I can't
100 miles an hour.
imagine. I can't imagine going 3 weeks straight now like I did back
No.
then. And because it was me alone in the car, which I would never do again either. But I was alone in my car, but I'd have that pad next to me and a pen. This was when we only had AM and FM radio, no Sirius XM, none of that.
Yeah.
And so I just had the radio off most of the time, and I would get to laughing about stuff I was going to say that night because I started realizing that people were the comedy came along after. I thought I was just a singer, but I remember this. You booked me as a singer, so I would come on in this very room, and I would see on their faces how bored they already were. Like thinking, "Oh, Lord, we're going to have to sit through 15 minutes of this." And then after that, I'd start talking. They weren't expecting it. And an audience that's not expecting it is much easier to make laugh.
Oh yeah.
I think.
And we love to hear stories. We love to laugh. Whether we're 8 or 80.
Yeah, but we didn't
them.
have a brochure for a long time, and yet we kept busy, right? Preachers would tell
Kept
other
very
preachers.
busy. Yeah, we kept very busy. We were at that time. You were on the Old Time Gospel Hour TV program
Very
on
occasionally.
a regular basis. So obviously, I
really.
used that as a hook to when I'm calling the pastor or
Right.
music director of the church. It was a
Right.
little bit of a way they could identify and connect with them.
Right.
And
you've
of course,
always had that voice, that deep voice. "Hello, this is Roy Morgan." And then they go, "Well, okay,"
Well, some of them really became great friends.
Yeah.
Really, really good people back then. And look, we were knocking on their door. They didn't know us anything.
Right.
And sometimes that's what we got, nothing,
Right.
or very, very little, but we maybe got enough money to get you to the next date,
Right.
I remember one night, I had you go from Lynchburg to Bluefield, West Virginia on a Wednesday night. And I remember you doing your concert. It was a love offering. No travel money, just a love offering. And the pastor bless his heart. I mean, you got up and did your concert, and he said, "Okay, folks, we're going to have a plate at the back door, and as you leave tonight, and you want to bless Mark, put something in the plate. Don't feel any obligation to if you don't want to, but go, and you got like $24, and you turn around and drove back to Lynchburg, and we had quite a few nights like that.
Oh yeah, we had
But
some
you
where they
met,
just shook my hand and said, "Thank you for coming." I said, "Thank you for
yeah,
having me." And then
yeah,
I remember we were early on. We were selling a lot more product than we were getting in a love offering. Evidently, I wasn't that lovable. So when they would pass the love offering, there would not be that much, but we'd sell $900. That was a
there,
lot.
wa- there was a lot of love, but not a lot of offering in
Yeah, right, right,
those.
right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. But so that's when I switched from 501c3 to a for-profit early on, way before Gaither, just because we were making money. But remember, originally you were getting 25% of the love offering. Do you remember
That was
that?
my commission. Yeah, yeah, that's the commission. Yeah.
And I saw one night it was 900 on the table, $100 in the offering. So you were going to make $25. And that's when I immediately realized 75% of something is better than 100% of nothing. And without
Mm.
Roy Morgan, I'm going to have 100% of nothing. So remember, we switched. For
We
that
did.
second, we switched to 25% of everything. And
Well, you've always been generous, Mark.
I'm
You've
not
always been a
stupid.
blessing.
Generous has nothing to do with it. I wanted to make sure you were happy, healthy, and fed, and you could raise your family. Because what good is this if everybody doesn't win, really?
Right, that's
And
true.
you were putting me out there. I am sitting here right now with 1,299 people, and y'all are watching me because of this man right here.
Mm.
He, when no one knew me, y'all, he booked me in those independent fundamental Baptist churches because that's all we knew. That's all we were. And that's the only place we thought we had a chance of getting in.
Yeah,
We dreamed of the day we'd be invited to a Southern Baptist church. Remember that?
I do. Yeah, I do.
Oh, if we ever could break into the Southern Baptist market. That's what.
Yeah. We used to go to the Southern Baptist Convention and shake hands and pass out cards.
Wow.
So yeah.
So anyway, so then we got some stories you got to get to, and I don't know in what order you want to do it, but we worked together for 8 years. We did. I tell everybody, see if I'm telling this correctly, about 200 concerts a year. Did-
Close to that, yeah. That and you were definitely on the road that many days a year.
Yeah, I know
You
you
know.
would send it into the Singing News, and it would take
Mhm.
up half a page of my
Yeah,
schedule. And George
yeah.
Yonts, Kirk Talley told me one time, he said, George Yonts said, I don't know who this Mark Lowry is, but he's going to be a rich son of a gun. Because he sold all these dates. He didn't know I got $100 there, I got 25 there,
50 there, yeah.
I got nothing here.
But it looked
But you
good.
know what? We didn't, I mean,
Uh,
I know I complained a lot, but looking back on it, it was so good. Looking back on it, I guess I forget the tiredness and the worn outness I felt back then. I look back on just a great journey. The whole thing has been great. So
Very
we
much
worked
so.
we worked together for 8 years, and then a manager came along who fired you.
Yeah, well, before you get that, Bill called.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Was that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
that
were,
was
it's not,
before
not
that. Right, right,
1980,
right.
1981 is when we first started. We started really getting things up and going in January of 82, which that was 40 years ago, but
Uh,
um, and then I went on the road. Uh, in addition to booking you, I
hmm
went on the road as the promotional director for Sandy Patty
Oh,
and
yeah.
the Bill Gates Trio,
Right.
doing a lot of their advanced work. And Bill and them let me still represent you while I was working for Sandy and Bill full time.
Wow.
And I'd go in and Sandy Patty concert in a Coliseum. getting set up in the daytime, and I get out on the payphone in the concourse and call churches trying to book you. You know, we were just trying to keep this thing going.
Wow.
And I'll never forget being with Sandy's husband one night, John Helvering at the time. I said, John, what advice could you give me? Because, you know, Mark and I over here are just going as hard as we can and working as hard as we can. And, you know, you feel like you're on a treadmill or you're going backwards and just nothing happening. And I'll never forget what he told me, Mark. He said, find out the strength of the artist and capitalize on it. And something went off in my head that I thought, you know, people love Mark's voice. They love to hear him sing, but they love to hear his storytelling. They love that. And I had booked you as a singer, which you were, but I left out one of the most important parts of who you are and your talent. And so I started. I changed it at that point when am I presenting to a church or a pastor or a promoter or whoever about who you were, and I added I didn't call it a comedian. I called you a humorist, which is what you were and what you still are.
Right.
And that was a game changer. And I'll never forget Judy Nealon.
Yes, thank God for Judy Nealon. That's another one.
Yes, yeah. I mean, Judy owned the publishing for How Great Thou Art.
Right.
Remember that?
Yes, she did.
And she helped me get you on. I'll give her all the credit. She got you on Estes Park at the seminar in the Rockies, Estes Park, Colorado.
She did.
10-minute. I'll never forget this. 10 minutes on a Monday morning that you had. And Dallas Home and Sandy Patty were co-hosting it. And they brought you up on stage, and in 10 minutes, you got 2 standing ovations. And I remember all these record companies that I had been talking to that wouldn't give me the time of day. You know, prior to that, they were all in the audience because this was more of a business conference, music business conference,
right?
Showcasing new talent. And by the end of the week, there were 3 or 4 record companies coming after me or after you and saying, hey, we want to sign this guy. We want to talk.
And remember what happened that week? I couldn't even stay.
You know, you had to go.
I performed on a Monday morning. That Monday morning, I had to walk off that stage, run to my rental car to go to Denver to catch a flight to Georgia for Super Wow Camp, I think it was called.
Yeah, Jekyll Island.
Jekyll Island, yeah.
Jekyll Island.
And I had to call you every day. What's happening? What's happening?
Yeah, what's happening?
And
yeah.
You got to have all the fun, but you had booked me. One thing you did, you could book me. You had me booked, and I had to get it. But I love that. I love the way it all played out. Don't you?
Yeah, I do too. Because Word Records signed you.
Right. And that was my dream. That was my dream record label. To be with
we had Lynn Kiesecker there and Barry Landis, John Mays, who used to be with the Spear family, and
well, Lynn Kiesecker was my personal hero when I was there. He helped me come up with all those parodies we did of Sandy Patty.
Great guy.
Some other time, some other place, and Facing This World, Michael W. Smith. Remember?
Oh yeah,
that was a fun era.
Yeah. But you know, before you came along, most CDs were sold in Christian bookstores back then, and record labels were not putting out any kind of videos. Now this was way before the DVD. Okay,
right.
This was 1987, 1988.
Yep,
okay?
It sure was.
And but record labels would make a video, and they would ask bookstores to play it on a loop in the store in hopes that they would sell CDs.
Right.
And I remember sitting down with Barry Landis, the marketing director at Word Records. I said, Barry, Mark will sell some DVDs, or not DVDs, but VHS back then, the videos, you know. I said, because he had one already, and we watched it sell at the merchandise table. Everybody, you were so visual with the facial expressions you made and the storytelling. People wanted that.
Mm-hmm.
This was all before Gaither Homecoming and the whole bit, and
Oh, yeah.
and they weren't quite sure about it. And I said, no, give it a chance. Give it a chance. We went to Chattanooga, Tennessee, if you remember this.
Yeah, yeah.
Filmed a concert there at the old Tivoli Theater,
Right.
and made a video that night.
Yeah.
And that was the first video you made, and it went gold. It went gold.
Wow.
The next album release,
Yeah.
Word Records had a video department.
Yeah.
They started one. And
Wow.
we kept making videos.
Yeah. Well, the first comedy video was the first one. That's what we made that and paid for that. That's where I just
Yeah.
stood there and talked. I never wanted to do that. That's not what I do. But they wanted that. Remember, Barry Landis
Right.
wanted one of me. So I ended with a song called What a Savior He Is that I'd written.
Mm-hmm.
But I just put all my stories together, and that was so awkward. Because what I do is, what helps me is I can sing a song while I'm thinking about where I'm going next.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? The songs are not only an ear break for the audience, it's a mental break for me. Because I can go away for a minute and pull
Yeah.
through a few doors and say, well, where do we want to go tonight? But yeah,
Right after Estes Park,
yeah,
Bill Gaither called.
I know it all happened at the same time.
Yeah, right. 1987, 88. Bill,
Yeah,
I remember where I was when he called, and he said, I want Mark to come and audition for the Gaither vocal band. Gary McSpadden had just left.
right.
And I'd been talking to Bill for about 3 or 4 years about you, pitching you to him all the time, but there just wasn't a place. There
Right,
wasn't
right.
he didn't know where to quite to fit you in, I think. But after Estes Park, Colorado, and what happened there, I believe his sound man even came back and said, hey, Mark Lowry sort of stole the show at Estes, and you need to check him out. And so Bill's calling. You go to Nashville and audition for him.
With my brother, he went with me.
Yep, yeah. And then you got in your car, Mark. I remember this like it was yesterday, and you drove to High Point. Kathy and I lived in High Point at the time, and you came to the house, stayed at the house, and you went upstairs, and I had a little office adjacent to our bedroom, and we sat in there, and you were wrestling with it. Bill wanted you in the vocal band, but you weren't quite sure. You called him on the phone right there in my office and said, I'm not going to do this. Then the next day you called him back and said, I think I'll give it a try.
I remember.
It was such a,
Well,
it was
so
a major
out of
decision.
First of all, I'd never sung in a group.
Yeah, yeah,
I didn't know what a baritone was.
right.
It was like the challenge seemed too big. And I wasn't starting with, Boogie Bottom Boys. I was starting with the Gaither vocal band,
Right, right.
And I wasn't that big a fan either. I loved the Rambos. I love trios. I love a woman's voice in there. I never was a quartet fan. Sounds like a mud wall to me. But I knew who Bill Gaither was, and I knew who Michael English was, and I knew they're flat-footed. Michael English was what I call a flat-footed singer, right? A singer. And then Terry Franklin, he was...
Jim Murray was the tenor singer at that
was
time.
the first one.
Yeah, came from
And
the
so
Imperial.
when I went into audition, I'll never forget it, Mike went with me, and my brother, and there was Michael English there with his braces. He had braces then. And there was Jim Murray, and I could see through the glass, and we did Daystar. And I remember how much work it was to learn the harmony for Daystar, because Gary McSpadden blended like flour in a cake, and I couldn't pick out the part. So I invited someone over to the house who did know how. And right now his name escapes me, but he was in the Sounds of Liberty back in the day. He was a tenor singer. You're going to know him.
I know who you're talking about, but I can't think of his name
Short
either.
little fella.
Yeah. He moved to Nashville.
Anyway, he came over and he sang in my ear. I memorized it, went to Nashville, thinking I ain't going to get this, and I really don't want it because I just signed with Word. right? I
Yeah.
didn't think you could have a solo career and a quartet Gaither vocal band career. How does that
Right.
work? But then
Yeah.
remember what happened, and I want to hear from your side too. But I finally sat down with Bill and said, "How? I don't know that I can do both." He said, "Oh, well, I've always done a lot of things." And when he said, "I've always done a lot of things," I said, "Well, then I will too." And that made my decision. When I thought, "Yeah, why not?"
Chuck Sullivan.
Chuck Sullivan is his
Chuck
name.
Sullivan. That's
Mike just
exact.
stuck his head in and told me it's Chuck Sullivan. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Chuck Sullivan. I remember
So
Chuck. Great
now,
tenor singer. Yeah.
now then I went out on the road with him a little while and tried out.
You tried out.
And then we finally committed, and you were able to geniusly juggle those two calendars, my solo calendar and the Gaither Vocal Band calendar.
Yeah. This was the fall of 1988, and I was promoting those Gaither shows, and they'd play like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I'd try to book you on Monday or Tuesday somewhere. Or,
Right.
we had to keep that balance so you still had your brand, your solo career,
Right.
and you weren't just known as a member of the vocal band. So
Right.
it was a balancing wire there, to have to walk.
And so then what happened?
Well, things started growing, exploding, and because at that time I was your agent, your manager, and promoting a lot of your concerts.
Right.
And we got into the early 90s, and about 1992, 1993, we both realized that we needed somebody else on this team. And my forte wasn't management. It was booking, and it was, being a concert promoter.
Mm-hmm.
And so we brought on someone else to be your manager. And I stepped back just to be the agent, promoter, wearing those hats. And one day I got released from my duties.
Via
By
a
fax.
fax, yeah.
Yeah. And
I allowed that
and-
to
and-
happen. I did not know it had happened until after the fact. As far as how it was done, but nevertheless, the buck always stops with the artist. Their manager only does what they allow them to do if they're actually doing their job, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
he thought if we moved to William Morris Agency, because I will say this in his defense, and we both love this person.
we absolutely do. He's a dear friend.
We're all still friends, and I'm sure
Yeah.
he wouldn't mind us saying his name, but I'm not going to, just because he isn't here to say his side of what happened. But we went to pot. We went to hell in a handbasket pretty quickly. The bookings dried up. It's like the blessing of the Lord left us. It was unbelievable how William Morris can't book their way out of a paper sack, it didn't look like to me. Because you had me booked all the time. And but we eventually came back with our tail between our legs. But tell what God did for you.
Here's the thing, Mark. What I'm getting ready to share now, outside of my salvation experience, was probably the greatest spiritual experience I ever went through during that time. Because unfortunately, when I was let go, my response or my reaction to that was not spiritual at all. There was resentment, there was anger, there was hurt, a lot of these different emotions that I went through. I felt like I was being treated unfairly. I was just having my own little pity party. Just as it's almost embarrassing to say, but I need to be honest, because it was and be transparent, because what I didn't know is God was doing heart surgery on me. And you and I have a mutual friend named Lynn Barrington. And Lynn, she's the type of friend that'll get up in your face pretty quick.
Right.
She's a life coach. And I got on the phone with her one day, and I just having my pity party. Now this was about 2 months, yeah, about 2 months, maybe 3 months after I was let go. And I said, Lynn, this isn't fair. This is just not fair. And I said this. I said, I work 80% of my day for Mark. 80% of my day, I've invested in him, and I'm being asked to give up 80% of my life. And Mark, I will never, ever forget what Lynn told me. She said, well, Roy, you ought to count yourself lucky. And I said, why do you say that? She said this. She says, because usually God requires us to be willing to give up 100% of our life. He's only asking you to give up 80. And when she told me that, it pierced my soul in such a way that I wept, and I realized this was sin. My sin, not yours, not the manager's. It was sin in my heart, because I had I'm just going to be very transparent here. I had looked to you as my provision instead of God.
Right.
And he had to remove you temporarily, but he had to remove you
Right.
from my life.
I'm glad he
So
didn't
I
do it
would,
permanently.
well, so I was depending on him as our provider and not an artist.
Right. You can
I
never
mean,
do
in,
that.
in essence, it was idolatry.
And it's unfair to the artist.
It's unfair to you because you don't need to be. That's not your responsibility and shouldn't be your pressure.
My rear
And
end was not built for his throne. You know what I
right,
mean? Only
yeah.
he can sit there. He is our source. He is our provider. I've gone through similar things. I'm sorry that I was part of that to hurt you like I did, but I tell you what, I'm glad the Lord mended us, you
Oh,
know?
hey, Mark. When she told me that, I immediately, first of all, I said, God, forgive me for uh, not looking to you as my provider.
Right,
Forgive me for putting somebody on the throne instead of you,
right.
in front of you. And then I picked up the phone and called you. And I
Oh,
said, Mark, will you forgive me for how I have felt?
mm,
Will you forgive me for the thoughts that I had here and that resentment? Because that was sin, and you forgave me. And you know what? We learned. I remember 30 days later we were back together.
right.
You, me, and that manager. We met in a backstage at a concert in Maryland. I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember this. Before you went on stage, and we said, "Hey, let's go do this together." And I knew my role. Everybody knew their role. But I'm gonna tell you, here's what I've learned, and I've been able to share this with many people, even in the music industry,
Yeah.
agents whose artists have left, or
Right.
promoters whose artists have gone a different way. I said, hold it loosely.
Yeah.
Hold it loosely.
Yes.
Don't try to hold on to something, and don't fight change. Embrace it.
Yes.
Welcome change, and
Yes.
because I heard that old saying, the most consistent thing about life is its inconsistency.
That's the
Change is coming.
truth. Yeah.
Change is coming, and we have to embrace it.
Right.
And I had no idea what God had in store for me. But 3 years later, Gary Gentry and I started Premier Productions,
Right.
and it became the largest concert promotion company in the Christian concert promotion company in the country.
And that's something.
And Mark, as of this end of this past year, over 30 million people have come to concerts at Premier Productions. God had those plans,
Yes, he
and
did.
you know what? And I'm over here holding on to something, and He said, "Will you let it
Yeah.
go and
Oh.
let me take care of you?"
And you
Anyway,
don't know how you blessed me when you let me go. Because no one should have to feel like they're anybody's source. Which I
yeah,
didn't know that. I didn't know you were feeling
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But I know this, that I remind myself over and over to myself that God is my source. No man. That way you're free to speak freely, to talk
Yeah.
freely, You don't have to worry what anyone's thinking except him, you know.
Right. Right.
Hopefully he's okay with it. But I have
Right.
learned to be careful what you say because he is listening. You know, I've been
Yeah.
saying
And
I
Mark,
want to be a grandfather, and now I am, you know, with those little boys
yeah.
up in the Bronx. But what are you going to say?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that anybody out there that's listening to your show here, or going to, if you're going through life right now, and you may have just gotten laid off, you may some relationship that has been broken or whatever, you're going through change, and you feel lost, you feel insecure, you feel anxious. Just do this. Just hold it loosely,
Yeah,
and hold it loosely right here. Do not hold on to it tight,
right.
because it may be that God is at work in your life, and He sees a year from now. He sees
Yeah,
2 years from now. He
yeah.
sees 5 and 10 and 20 years from now, and He's your provider, and rely on Him,
Mm-hmm.
and don't rely on a job, because change is inevitable. It's
Yeah.
going to happen, and
I
uh,
mean, you don't
and
know
our
what's
our
around the corner.
relationship was much better and healthier after that
Oh, yeah.
episode. You know?
Yeah. Because then we're looking eye to eye, not like you're looking up to me or I'm looking over. You
Right.
know, it's like we're equals. We're in this together. We both have the same goal. You and I both, at our core, have the exact same goal.
That's
We've
right.
gone about it differently. You're a
Right.
promoter. I'm the artist, or whatever you want to call it. But our goal is to try to convince people a man rose from the dead.
Amen.
And that changes everything when they believe that.
It's the
And
gospel.
but all of it, you know, whether it's humor or concert promoting, that's a spoke on the wheel. But the hub is there is a man in Israel who rose from the dead, and that changes everything.
Amen.
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 So, what? Anything else you can think of, Roy,
Uh,
in
I
this
love
story?
your
How many?
family.
Oh, I
Your
know you do.
you, Mike and I are just still
I
buddies,
know.
and
You are better
Natasha,
friends
and
than you and I are. He's always saying, Roy flew his plane down here, picked me up. Roy's never come anywhere around here in his big old plane.
you live in Texas,
I
not too
know it's
far
so
away.
far away. Well, I'm so
Yeah,
proud of you. How many
I'm
kids you
proud.
got? You have 4 kids, three, how many? I
Kathy and I
forget.
have three. We have two boys and a girl, two daughters-in-law, and six grandkids.
That's what I was fixing to get to.
Yep.
Six
Yep.
grand. Now, which one do you like the best?
Oh, don't do that. I love.
I love asking people that question, even though
Yeah,
I know they can't
they're the
say.
sweetest kids. They're the sweetest kids, and they're all under. They're 8 years old and under.
Oh my goodness,
So
how
when they're all
loud.
together, they
Yeah.
can be pretty entertaining when they're all together.
Oh, it's loud, I bet. Now, do they
Oh
live
yeah.
near you, around you,
Mm.
or not?
No, three live in Lynchburg, Virginia.
Okay, that's
Justin's kids, and he's an English professor at Liberty. He and his wife are there with the three kids, and then Dallas, our son Dallas, he and his
right.
wife Taylor, and their three kids are in Austin, Texas,
Well,
and
see,
he's in
they've
the
grown
film
up.
industry.
It's been
Yeah,
so long since you and I have worked together that they were
yeah,
just children when we finally. It just kind of it ended naturally, didn't it? It just kind of
it
our
did.
yeah. It was good for both of us.
Yeah, and our daughter Ashley lives in Nashville, and she's a tour manager for Kerry Jobe and Cody
Oh,
Carnes,
wow!
and you don't want to go settle a show with her as a promoter.
Oh,
She's a
really?
pretty tough cookie.
Is
Yeah.
she? She learned from Daddy.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, Roy, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. You're one, like I've said many times, whenever you see a turtle sitting on a fence post, you know he didn't get there by himself. And you are one of the people that put this turtle on what little fence post I was put on. You, Judy Nealon, Cam Floria, he let me on the program. I mean, there is, I could go down,
Bill.
and Bill Gaither, of course. He gave me a national stage that I never would have had apart from him.
Yeah.
So I'm a
But Mark,
grateful person.
the reality is, though, we all need each other. Uh, if you're a booking agent, you got to have an artist to book.
Oh
If you're
yeah.
a promoter, you got to have an artist on stage, and you were that. And we all, I mean, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have the opportunities that I've had to fulfill the calling that God put on my life, for
Yeah,
40
that's
plus
something.
years. And same thing with, when Bill called and all these other artists. It's just, uh, but knowing we fulfilled a calling where people have come to Christ
Mm.
and given their life to Him.
Makes it worth it, doesn't it?
How fulfilling that is! It's
I
just
know it.
so fulfilling, so
Won't it
fulfilling.
be wild when we get to heaven and get to meet all those people and we
I
get to
know.
sit down and talk and hear their stories, and we're not in a hurry and you can't catch COVID if they get too close and all that stuff that we're going through now. I haven't been to the product table in since COVID.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I haven't gotten COVID either. Thank the Lord. I've been vaccinated, boosted, and all of it, but I've not gotten COVID, and I don't want to get it. Have you gotten
yeah.
it?
Had it twice.
Oh,
Yeah.
you got to
Second
quit.
time wasn't bad. Second
You got
time
to
we just
quit
felt
going
like
to
a
the
cult.
product table. So the first time was bad.
He had me down for about 3 weeks, a year ago,
Oh,
January, and Kathy
who's
didn't
got
have it that bad. It did, but
who's
I
got
did. But
that much time?
I
Three
know,
weeks. I can't stay in bed for 3 weeks.
I know. But
But when you
God
feel
is good.
awful, you can. Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Well, so I guess that's it, huh?
I can't think of anything else,
Well, you're
man. But
retired now, right? You're retired, or no? No, you're still working
well,
some. You,
well, we still have our Premier Christian cruises. We still
yeah.
do the
Okay.
Caleb
Okay.
cruise. We have Premier Israel. We take folks trips to Israel. And I'm not out of the music industry. I'm chairman of the board for the Gospel Music Association. We do the Dove Awards. We're getting ready to start a capital campaign to build a Gospel Music Hall of Fame and museum on Music Row in downtown
Wow.
Nashville. We're really
Nice.
excited about what's happening there. And then I serve on the board for the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C. And it's an incredible place. If,
Yeah.
if, if, uh, if you haven't been, it's a great place to go to learn about the Bible.
Well,
It's a
so you're
wonderful
not
place.
really retired at all. So you sold the
No,
company to.
transition.
Didn't you sell the company to the people that work in the company, or did one?
Yeah, well, we had a private equity firm that bought us, but they had the younger guys in the company to buy into the new company and stay there because they're the face of it and they're running it. And
So it's
Gary and I,
still doing good. The company's still doing good.
oh, it's growing, growing.
Really?
Just the thing is, sometimes we hold on to something too long.
Oh,
You know,
really?
you got to let it go again. You
Right.
hold it
Right.
loosely.
Right.
And these guys were ready to grow, and they needed opportunity to grow, and we just felt like it was the right time to do it, and pass the baton to Shane and Michael and the rest of the team. I mean, there's 60 to 70 employees there. They promote. They'll probably promote 800 to 1,000 concerts this year. Uh, Doing an incredible job, and you know that's
Wow.
great. We're cheerlead we're emeritus board members,
Okay.
which means uh, they won't call us. They don't need our advice. They know
Yeah.
what they're doing.
They know what
But
they're doing. Yeah.
it's in name only. But it's still a joy to see everybody and talk with them and
Well, I know this.
watch that
You are
company
the
grow.
most. I remember early on, you were so not. I don't want to say tight. You were frugal. Frugal. I remember frugality. I remember you had a car that I think you drove it till there were holes in the floorboard, and
Oh yeah.
you could have afforded to get you a nice. No, you paid cash for everything. You were David Ramsey's dream boy before David Ramsey was even around, and you taught me a lot about saving money and because it wasn't going to last forever. All
Yeah.
these.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I would encourage young artists. If you go through a segment where the Lord is blessing you financially, make sure you save it. because there's coming a day when people aren't going to want to hear you sing.
Yeah, that's right. And be generous. Be
Yes.
generous, give it back.
Yes.
It's not ours anyway.
Right. Yeah.
It's
I
not
love
ours.
you, Roy Morgan, and I thank you
I
for
love you,
joining
Mark
me.
Lowry.
I'll talk to
Take
you
care,
soon,
bud. Thank you
hopefully.
so
Bye-bye.
much. Great reminiscing with you.
Oh, I loved it. Tell Kathy I said hey.
I sure will, bud. Love
And
you, bud.
y'all, I will see you when I see you.